All right, it's the bottom of the hour. I am Mark Pundsack, VP of Product Strategy, and this is a public live stream. Ask me anything. There is a doc, and I see there's a bunch of questions in there already. Philippe, if you're on the call, do you want to jump in with your first question? And if he's not, then I'll go ahead and read it. All right, what do your days look like when you started your new position as VP of Product Strategy? Same as before. That's a good question. I wouldn't say I've really actually even started this new role. So far, they're not really, it's not really any different, but I will actually for a moment just share my calendar here. So you can see this was before Contribute. This is what my calendar looked like. These banana colored items.
We don't see your calendar.
We're looking at the doc.
Oh, wrong doc. Let me grab the different one. Thank you for letting me know.
And I've been promoted, so I'm there.
Different, there you go. All right, now you can see my calendar, cool.
Yes.
All right, so anyway, this is my calendar looked like before Contribute. These banana colored items are the times I've blocked out for actually getting work done outside of meetings. You can see the week before was pretty bad. A bunch of actually people booked over my lunch. Didn't even have lunch that day. So not so great. Let's go forward. This is my week this week. Not much better. Next week, actually starting to block out some stuff. Hopefully those will actually stick and people won't book over them. And then let's see, the following week after that, I actually start to have some white space. Look at this, a 3-hour chunk of work. Hopefully that will actually work. So hopefully things will change. But as of yet, I think things always go through a little bit of it actually gets kind of worse because now I'm onboarding another person and helping them get up to speed and still being asked to participate in all the things. So it'll get better though. Simon, are you on the call? If not, then all right, great. Do we have an AI strategy? If so, what is it? Either as part of GitLab, the product, or for servicing AI developers. So I actually put one link in the doc already because I saw this question. There is in our handbook a link to how we look at machine learning and AI at GitLab. There's not a lot in there. What I will say is that it's a pretty pragmatic approach. We're not investing in all the hype really around applying AI to everything. We actually don't have any AI really or machine learning in the product, but there are some areas where I think that the tech is mature enough that we could apply it. Like auto tagging issues with labels and things like that could be really useful. But we're not really jumping in and sort of doing researchy kinds of things. The other side of the question is actually for AI developers, and that is interesting. We do have an issue. I'll have to find, or maybe somebody else can find a link to it. But there's an issue or an epic for how we're going after data science and AI and how we're helping researchers do that. And that's a little bit more of a longer vision as well. We don't have great tooling for that today, but we do see a good potential for, as GitLab goes beyond just developers and helping everybody in software development, there's a lot of adjunct like data science is part of software development more and more these days. And so how do we help those folks do their job better? And so at some point, I'll put a link on there if nobody else does. Philippe, question number 4. Oh, I can't hear you, Philippe.
You can hear me. I was muted, sorry. Thank you. Is the IPO going to change something in the way that we are planning in product, especially? Do you have something in your head that is after the IPO, we're going to have that, or we need to have that to go public? Is there something like that in the product?
I mean, a little bit of yes, but mostly no, in the sense that the IPO is just a milestone along the way. Our strategy is the same strategy before and after. We do have a public stated company strategy about I think it's 3 years after IPO, we expect to be, dominant, for way beyond just software development in the public, all this kind of stuff. So we have a strategy. Francis, you are unmuted.
Sorry.
No problem. So anyway, so that's not specifically because of the IPO. It's just simply saying it's going to take a few years before we reach a certain scale and before our strategy kicks in for various parts. There are a couple of very, very subtle conversations. I was having a conversation with somebody about this recently, maybe it was an interview candidate, but very few things like, oh, because we've got an IPO coming, we are going to do something different. There might, we might be ever so slightly more conservative, ramping up to the IPO and making sure that we focus more on hitting our revenue or IACV targets, but we're always aiming for hitting our IACV targets. So that's not really new, but maybe we'll spend a little less before we go in, or we're going to end up aiming for more sort of, or less variance, more predictability, that kind of thing. But that's, again, not strictly about even the IPO. Just as we grow, we should get more predictable, and our future strategy should be more obvious, and we should get more and more, focused on customer results. And all these things are just good things to do as we grow. So I wouldn't say we're really changing much specifically about IPO. I will say one comment though is, we talk about going public, just to be stuck on nomenclature here. We may or may not IPO, we may direct list, but the plan is to go public November 18th, 2020, not necessarily to go IPO. Kenny, what's your question?
Hey, Mark. Yeah, so I know you have a lot of passion about the tech trends in the developer tool market, but I would love to hear your thoughts around tech trends outside of the developer tool markets. What are you interested in? What excites you?
You mean like completely outside anything related to GitLab at all?
Maybe it's self-driving cars. Maybe it's rocket ships to the moon. Who knows? Yeah,
well, I mean, all those things are really exciting. I personally like drones, even though I actually am disappointed every time I buy a drone, but I like the potential behind drones. For me, this isn't a tech trend, but I'm just going to throw it out anyway. Early on in my career, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I wrote down, like, here's are the things I'm really, really excited by. And like AI was one of them. I've since been disillusioned. I worked in AI for quite a while, and I'm disillusioned on a lot of things there. And like virtual reality and augmented reality were really exciting. And there's some things there, but it's not really exciting. But one of the big items that I'm still waiting for is neural interfaces, basically, plugging in computers into your brain. And I think like Elon Musk actually either did create a company or was talking about creating a company to do this recently. And so I'm really interested to see, like, is this actually a mainstream time where people will really try and do this? Or is it, it still may be 30 years out before it's successful, but that would be a really interesting tech trend if that actually became a tech trend. Shane, what's your question?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, so is our primary focus to build products, and maybe this is a bit of a provocative question, but is our primary focus to build products for companies that work like GitLab asynchronously, or products that have the largest market today, which is more async, sync, hybrid, or sync? What's the primary focus?
Good question there. So I would definitely not say our focus is to serve GitLab, although clearly dogfooding our own product is really important. Our focus is modern development teams, and I would characterize that first as folks that are doing conversational development, which is definitely aligned with where GitLab is and wants to be. But even folks that are doing lean and agile, kind of in that bucket. And so it's modern first, and then also Kubernetes or cloud native first. Those are sort of the two pillars there, and then just developer first. So we're going after developers first, as opposed to the rest of the development lifecycle, or the people involved in the development rather. But we absolutely also want to serve those folks and those needs, and we definitely realize that people have legacy needs. People are still deploying under bare metal. That's not really a legacy thing that's going to stick around forever, but it's a different approach. And we do have customers that are absolutely not doing any kind of agile at all. They're doing waterfall, and they still need to be able to use our product. So we absolutely serve all of these folks, but I'd say the sweet spot is definitely conversational development. Now, async versus sync, that's an interesting question. Our tool absolutely facilitates async and helps you collaborate on issues and everything else, but there's nothing in there that stops you from working well for a synchronous team or something like that. And I don't think we've ever consciously said, oh, we're not going to do that because that's a synchronous way of working. I mean, we just happen to have chosen to work primarily asynchronously, but more about remote, and but we're not making a tool that's only good for remote companies, for sure. John.
Hey, Mark. So as you look at product strategy, how do you see our acquisition strategy helping to improve and impact future capabilities?
Yeah, so our acquisition strategy really looks primarily to augment in areas that we don't have great coverage yet, but we want to. We have a really ambitious roadmap, or vision rather, with currently 70 or 80 categories defined. There's more that are going to be coming, and some of those categories we've defined, but we have nothing in them. So an easy layup is sort of a an acquisition that fills one of those spots that we have identified but haven't actually built. The sweet spot for acquisitions for us is folks that have good product, good technology, good people, but for whatever reason haven't really reached product market fit or market traction or something like that, or failed to raise funding or whatever it is, because we can bring some of that. We've got good product market fit, we can help bring them to market, but we need help with the rest of the product. The other reason for that is actually that since we don't really invest in point solutions, if you acquire a point solution and they've got tons of customers and tons of revenue and things like that, but then we bring them in and like, well, we want to then build it into a product, we've got to rebuild it from scratch. We're not really buying revenue, we're not buying users, we're buying the technology, or really the skill set to rebuild the technology again. So unfortunately, it means that we're not really set up for acquiring companies that already have tons of success. We're looking for folks that have technology that really fits in well. And then I will say that there are some interesting folks that we're already talking to, but we'll continue to talk to, that have things that we hadn't previously thought of. So like things we haven't identified as categories, but do fit within the software development world. And something that's like, yeah, we could totally see how that would fit in there. And that's a great place to look at acquisitions as well. Elsha, are you in a spaceship? I am not currently in a spaceship, but it does kind of look like one. Sorry, I should have let you verbalize that question. Did you want to elaborate on the question?
I realized you're in green screen, and it's probably going to be something like really famous that I don't know about. Do you believe in it?
It is It is a Star. It's a Star Trek bridge. I'm not sure exactly which one. It might be. I don't know. I think the name on the file said Discovery, but.
It looks like the NCC 1701-D from Enterprise.
It does look like.
Oh, I'm going to check that out. Yeah.
Fair enough. I see that some people are asking questions in chat. Can you make sure to, or somebody post them in the doc? That's the only place I'm actually looking. Daniel.
Hey, Mark. So I'd like to know how your focus is going to change going from head of product to now VP of strategy. What are you going to do less of, and what are you going to focus more on? And a follow-up to that, what is the difference between a VP of strategy and a chief product officer role?
All right, so first question first. Big focus is to focus on longer term things. We have these terms defined, and we say strategy is something with a 4-year cycle, and a plan is something with a 1-year cycle. And I should be less involved in the 1 year and less cycle and more involved in the 4-year or longer cycle. In practice, that may mean I look at sort of far future technologies and things that may take a while to pay off, or may take a while for us to even implement, playing with various trends and technologies. Another area that I'm going to hopefully spend a lot more time on is on acquisitions. I believe that acquisitions can be a really important part of fulfilling our strategy, a quicker way to get up on these categories and help bring some of those things that would have been far future to be less far future. So I want to spend a lot more time on that. I also just want to simply get out more, speak more, go to conferences more, talk to customers more. A lot of the things that I haven't made time for when I've been doing a lot of day-to-day. In terms of the less, that is, I hope I'm less involved. I don't know how practically that's going to happen. I still get mentioned by customers and internal folks all the time because they know that I have the answer. It's one of the downsides of being here for 3 years. But I hope that more and more I will be able to get out of that and focus more on the longer term stuff. What is the difference between VP of Product Strategy and Chief Product Officer? It's a good question. In some ways, certainly the stuff that I'm looking at would be covered by a Chief Product Officer. I think in our organization, we are not looking to have a chief product officer, primarily because Sid really is acting as the chief product officer. He does drive our company vision in a lot of ways, and he's very much involved. He's a product CEO is a better way to say it, but that CPO role is probably non-existent at this company. Rashad.
Good morning, Mark. Yeah, I've been curious about this for a while. How do we incorporate the community into our product strategy? What are our goals there? And how could we get more from this resource?
Good question. There's a lot of ways we currently do that. And then there's probably a lot of ways we could do more of. The simplest, most important thing here is that our entire product strategy is public. So anybody can contribute. And that's totally unique from any company I've ever worked with or for or seen. And so, yeah, that's the easiest way. You can see our strategy, you can see our direction, you can see it at the roadmap level of what's coming up the next few releases. You can look at what's our 12-year plan. You can see what our 4-year plan is. We do actively reach out in a variety of ways. We've got the customer advisory board. So we've got 10 or 15, or maybe it's growing now, of key customers that we talk to on a regular basis, and we certainly involve them in our product strategy. Obviously, we do reach out to individual customers and prospects all the time, and that always folds into our product strategy. And it's really important to product strategy isn't just like this one thing at the holistic level. Like we have a product strategy, and then we have a strategy for and a vision really for each stage, and then each category within the stage has a vision. And a lot of people probably don't know because this is all relatively new. Each one of those things actually has a document you can go to. It might be a web page or it might be an epic, but each category has a vision that describes where we're going with that, and you can contribute on that. It's slightly easier to contribute on the epics because you can actually just literally comment, but even if it's on a web page, you can submit an issue or a merge request to discuss it on there. What are our goals? I mean, those are fairly obvious. We really want to focus, as Sid mentioned at Contribute, we want to focus on customer results. We have for a while, honestly, been focusing on building out our vision.
I'm not sure if I was clear. I mean, what are our goals in regards to leveraging the community for contributing?
Right, exactly. So actually contributing code back, let me just make sure, or contributing just to the vision.
To our contributing code back.
Okay, so contributing code back is a great one because obviously we have a lot of merge requests every month that come from the community. We have a few folks that actually really help that out, and we've got various triaging and merge request coaches and things like that. I think we may even have OKRs to bump up that number and get even more contributions. There's a really great trend recently of companies hiring people to work in their company to permanently contribute back to GitLab. And that's an awesome trend that we want to encourage more of. I think we might even have a certification program coming to help with that kind of thing. I know we have some kind of branding program around it already, but I think it's going to evolve. And that's a great trend. I'd love to see that, having people contribute the things that they want directly into the product. And that's the best way to obviously guide the direction is, we have a framework usually of really, really broad features. And then you've got specific needs and you'll know them better than we will. And if you can contribute them, that's great. But even if you don't contribute, there's other ways to contribute than code rather. Creating issues is the single best, easiest way for customers and prospects to contribute to our direction.
Hey, Mark, this is Larry. I hate to jump in the middle of this, but I couldn't get my name on the list. I didn't have authorization. I've got a quick question for you, and I realize that the problem is an age-old problem, and we've been engaged with a prospect now for nearly a year. They are very interested in GitLab.com, but however have encountered several very significant SSO-related challenges. And we've communicated these resolutions. The problem is that the resolutions continue to be delayed. And not surprisingly, these delays are impacting our forecast. The company is really pushing sales today to achieve accurate forecasts. Yet in many ways, our forecasts are contingent upon our ability to deliver functionality as a company. So my ask in this to you is, what can we do to improve the alignment between development and revenue generation?
Great question. I guess it starts with a simple answer of collaboration and communication. There is definitely a tension there. Sales obviously wants to have lower variability, lower variance, and more predictability in your forecasting. And product values and product development as a whole values velocity over predictability. It's in our handbook. It's shared across the org, basically, that predictability is not, strictly speaking, a goal. However, there is this tension that clearly, when we do have customers that depend on it or sales that depend on it, how do we reconcile that? The first step is to reach out and communicate. We have various ways to do that, right? But if we make a promise to a customer, we absolutely need to make sure that everybody knows about that. Honestly, one of the problems I've seen is that sometimes we don't, somebody will make a promise to a customer, but the people actually implementing the effort aren't even aware that that's a promise. That's something we should definitely shore up. We also need to work better about communicating that these are all best effort things. We do have really ambitious roadmaps and schedules. And while we're trying to get a little bit more predictable, one of the things, actually, I should step back for a moment because folks don't necessarily follow along really closely here. But a while ago, we consciously chose to overschedule. We said we want to hit 70%. Like our OKRs, we are really ambitious about what we plan for. And if we hit 70% of that for OKRs, we're happy, because that means we're being ambitious in our planning. And we took that same pattern and said, we're going to apply that to a roadmap. So we're going to overschedule, knowing consciously that we are not going to deliver everything. That had all sorts of downsides. Obviously the sales one, but had other motivational downsides with engineering. So we reverted that. We went back to saying, no, we're going to plan for what we believe is achievable based on our historic delivery rate. It doesn't mean that everything that we plan for is going to ship, but the quantity should be, roughly speaking, the same, but it also should improve predictability. That's only changed in the last few months. So it might not really have, you may not have seen that change yet. You might not really feel it. In the SSO case, though, I think we escalated, and we actually did a really great job of saying, okay, look, let's talk to our customers, let's find out exactly what they need. Let's plan that out. And we were able to bring in a bunch of the items in a release or two, and we were able to deliver on those specific items. But that hasn't necessarily, that's great. We solved that one case, but how do we solve this generally? And hopefully those things are more of an exception than anything else. So again, a few combinations will make it better, but let's make sure that we communicate. Let's make sure that when sales lets product know that something is important, tell us the why. What really is at risk here? And is it just one customer? Or does it represent a group of customers? All that kind of stuff. But let's focus on the communication and getting that better.
So Mark, I think can I ask the question a little bit differently too? Because I think that the issue is, with .com, there's really three big things to fix, right? Performance mostly fixed it, right? Uptime fixed it. SSO is probably the third big thing to fix in there. And we iterate through that. We did the most important thing, the next most important thing, and so forth. And that's how we do stuff. Fantastic. But within regard to this specific issue, and Larry can share the link to the issue in the document or in the chat. I don't have access to the document either. But it's been pushed out multiple times. It's probably been pushed out as far as I remember 6, 7, 8 months now. And so at what point do we actually deliver it, right? So we have a customer, and there's a couple of customers waiting for this, and we've said, okay, here's the goalpost. Nope, moved it. Okay, that's fine, moved it a month. Nope, moved it. And so it's being communicated, but at some point that customer loses trust in the fact, yeah, you're just going to move it again. You're probably never going to do it. Like there's a point of trust that we have with our customers, and 99% of our customers see what we deliver and say, you guys are fantastic. You guys deliver faster than anybody else on earth. That's great. But in this specific case, it's been moved so many times that I think we're losing trust with that customer and with a couple other ones. And so what can we do to alleviate that?
So just a quick one. First step is make sure that people know what we're talking about. This seems to be a very specific case. I think I've seen the issue, but there's 48 or 84 people on this call, and they're all interested in what we're talking about. So make sure that we put a link in there so that we can be specific and don't talk in generalities when it's about a specific example.
I'll put the issue in there.
All right, cool. Well, while you look for that issue, yeah, I mean, if you want an answer for specific issues, I think we should dive in on the issue, because my understanding is that we have addressed a ton of things, and so I feel like my understanding is that things are roughly solved. We've got a bunch of customers that we've been working through the solution. So if you've got new information that, oh, well, this other issue actually is really important to a customer and we're not aware, then let us know. But again, it's hard to generalize. It sounds like we should take this one offline in the spirit of time. We're actually at time already, but I feel like we should take one more question. Was there? I think we stopped at David.
I think it's 55, so I think it's good to stop. This is
Yeah,
really short meetings at GitLab.
All right, we can do that. All right, thanks everyone.